Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the I Vote Ted for Pedro Show. I, of course, am Ted H6 of Ted Talks Ball, joined by Pedro, that's also known as at Pete D. Burge at Niners DNA YouTube channel. Pedro, how are you doing on this fine Monday?
As we always know, it's Tuesday morning down here in Sydney, and I'm perplexed, Ted. I'm in a quandary. I had a team that I was following that I've always loved, and look, I'm not at rock bottom, but there is something going on with this team that I don't think. Well, the coaches and the players seem to think they have the answers for or to the problems that are happening, but at the moment, I watched a team yesterday that looked like a shadow of its former self.
Yeah, certainly a shadow of what we saw in the first 5 games, where we went 5-0, and then now 0-3 in our last 3 versus the Browns, the Vikings, and now the Bengals. I would say it was not completely unpredictable. The 0-3 part is, but having a little bit of a letdown wasn't, because if you remember when I gave my initial I was wrong statement about Brock Purdy, I was very careful to say, through 4 games, we hadn't played any contenders and maybe all playoff pretenders. And, not a lot of great defenses, or at least if the Steelers are, they didn't play like it that week against us, week 1. It's a bummer for sure, and not the way you want to go into a bye week. But maybe the bye week's coming just at the right time. You can let Trent Williams get healthy, let Debo get healthy. I was just taking the dog for a walk right before we did the show here, and I was thinking about, when are we going to hear about Sam Womack getting healthy? Isn't he supposed to be coming back soon to be able to play? Was he on IR or something like that?
Good question.
Because we keep talking about trading for a corner, and then maybe we could slide Lenore in to nickel. But it's like, if Womack could play nickel, or if Womack could play boundary and allow Lenore to play nickel, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that right now, but we'll get into that further in the show. Real quick, let's say to everybody here in the audience, Danielle Thompson stopped by early. She said, hey, Ted, let's go boo. Thanks, Danielle. Welcome. Got Jimmy Perez in the house. He says, no victory Monday. No, pretty far from it. But thanks for joining, Jimmy. Good to see you. James Donald coming to us from across the pond. I want Wilkes head on a platter. Dollars to donuts. Purdy has another concussion after that sack in the 2-minute warning. Yeah, he got hit and his head bounced off, the back of his head bounced off the grass. And then that was where he threw the interception that got called back. But then the very next play, Hendrickson stripped the ball out and he fumbled on another sack. So, it looked like it was a pretty hard hit. And funny thing, because I wrote an article about that, where I said, would you balk if Kyle decided to sit Brock? And, because I was saying I thought we should have. I thought it was foolish to play him. That, if we need him now, we're going to need him even more down the stretch and in the playoffs. And, he would have had the extra week of rest to heal his head, to heal his arm, after the Vikings game. So we also need to talk Vikings too, right, Pedro? Because our last Monday show was before the Vikings game, so we haven't really recapped that as well. But there was some interesting news after that, where Brock talked to Troy Aikman and said, oh, my arm's still getting back to 100%. And I was like, gee, like I've been saying ever since camp. And everybody's like, no, Ted. Kyle said it's fine, Ted. And it's like, gosh, all this stuff that I've been saying, especially after the Cleveland game. Remember, I said his grip didn't seem like maybe it was like 100% on a wet ball. And now he's saying to Troy Aikman a week later, I'm like, good Lord, have mercy. What are these guys doing in the front office, where they think they can just make things up Why did they rush him back? They ultimately they rushed him back too soon. It's clear now. You should have played Trey Lance. You should have let Brock get to be 100%. Not with Trey Lance to be the starter, but just with him to get more experience. You probably could have got more for him in the first place. But a lot of stuff to unpack here.
So much.
Hopefully it's not a concussion, James. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Alex Simpson come to us also from across the pond, 49ers Faithful UK. Here's the flag for his group: Lee Gallen, Paul Hope, Alex Simpson, Nick Ludlum, all great folks and great guests to have on your shows if you ever want to. He said, we got bullied 3 weeks in a row. We used to be the bullies. I'd say that's pretty true.
We don't look like bullies. We look anemic in defense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is Debo and Trent being out. Those are two of our tougher players on the offense, along with Kittle, who are really going to, enforce, who are really going to dish out as much punishment as they take, type of thing, compared to the other guys who are a little more, Ayuk's a little bit more of a finesse player. Jennings is tough for sure, but where was he in the Bengals game? I mean, I guess some of it was, the one where he was the target. Brock never should have pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
But 0 catches for 0 yards for Juwan Jennings. That's definitely frustrating when you've got Debo out, when you need that production from your wide receiver 3, who's acting as wide receiver 2.
That's right.
Randy Daytona in the house says, Pedro, your stream isn't running for some reason.
Thank you, Randy. I'll fix it up. He's actually said good to go now, but it's great to hear. Yeah, but thank you, Randy. Good to know that we've got audience members looking out for us.
Yes, keep an eye out. We want to make sure that and that's a good point. We're streaming on both channels. If you're on TED Talks Ball, make sure you pop over to Niners DNA. Give Pedro a like and subscribe. If you're on a browser, it's pretty easy to open up a second tab. You can watch both shows at once. Just make sure to mute one of them, or it gets a little confusing and echoey. But even if you're on a phone, you could use a tablet or a secondary device to stream on 2 devices. So thanks in advance for your help on that, folks. It really helps us out. See here, Jimmy's saying, I don't know why Kyle didn't bench Purdy and put in Sam Darnold. Well, I think it's because for most of the game, Purdy was pretty good. I mean, that's the funny thing about what's been going on with him. I mean, he's sort of been good until he hasn't been, until crunch time, especially maybe not so much in the Cleveland game, but in the Vikings game and the Bengals game, he really just fell apart right at the end of both of those games, quite a bit.
I read something interesting in Warren. Is his name Warren Thompson? Sorry, give me one sec, Ted.
Take your time.
Marcus Thompson II.
Purdy G. Oh boy,
yeah,
it's starting. We've seen those memes. Well, I mean, how much did I talk about this offseason that they're very different players, but with very similar results? And I said, he had a lot of interceptions dropped in 2022. He had a lot of interceptions dropped in camp. He had a lot of interceptions caught in camp. And everybody's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, I guess, those camp interceptions do matter. And the things I saw there are coming true. And God help us if the Trey Lance stuff comes true, because, like I said, he was our best quarterback in camp. So let's hope that's not the case.
So the thing I read about with Marcus Thompson II on The Athletic is he was talking about his age, his experience, and that to be put under that sort of pressure in this part of his career, you got to expect some lumps and bumps. And look, to some degree, I agree with that. And the other point I wanted to raise is in terms of the arm strength, is that because he's such a touch player and because his sense of timing is sometimes perfect, but when he's off by maybe a second, maybe a millisecond, because of the he's not throwing bullets, it does have the propensity to be picked. And so that's sort of one point I want to explore with the audience. What do they think? I'm not saying that, he's as bad as Jimmy G, but I just think in regard to the way that he plays as a quarterback, and you're right, Jimmy, he likes to injure his quarterbacks. But then I said, okay, well, I'll extrapolate a little bit on that, of what Jimmy said. And I think there's two things with that. I think that Kyle has never really developed a quarterback. And number two, he refuses to put credence in an offensive line. He stacks his defense, and he does not put any depth into his offensive line. And you saw that yesterday. Jalen Moore is horrific. He didn't have much time to get the ball out. He was hit a lot of times. When you got up, and you're like, we think common sense, Ted, when what you said before in terms of not playing him. You don't have your Pro Bowl left tackle that's going to protect a recently concussed player. So the smart thing to do, the high percentage play thing to do, is to put in your backup, because we're going to need him for the rest of the season. You saw what happened to Tua Tagovailoa last year. So there's a lot of things that went into the recipe for disaster yesterday that I think can be looked at from a perspective of the coach's paradigm, that some decisions were made that just weren't in the best interest of this team and the player himself.
There you go. Randy, I'm going to pop back up a little bit higher. He said, schedule was terribly planned, injuries on top of that. I'm not panicking. We're 5-3, not 3-5. Well, of course you're not panicking, Randy. You predicted all three of these losses. I don't think anybody else did. So flowers to Randy for predicting losses to the Browns, Vikings, and Bengals. The Bengals didn't surprise me. I mean, I circled this game before the season started as one of the 49ers' three Super Bowl contenders that we would face the season before the playoffs. And I circled it also as a game that I wanted to attend. I might have tried to attend the Cowboys game, but it was too close to the birth of my second son. This gave me a little leeway. Even then, still, it was a little bit soon for me to be going to a game. But luckily, my cousin helped out with my older son. Son took him to a soccer game, and my mom took him for a little bit so my wife could just be man to man with the newborn. So that helped. I knew when I picked this game, there was a pretty good chance we'd lose. I even when Burrow was hurt, I never changed his ranking as my third best quarterback in the NFL behind Mahomes and Josh Allen. And the only reason I have Burrow behind Josh Allen really is just because I feel like his weapons are better. Otherwise, Burrow looked like a better QB yesterday than what I've seen from Josh Allen, including the fact that he was so mobile yesterday too. That's one thing that really surprised me, how many runs he had and the power he exerted in the pocket to avoid being sacked by Eric Armstead. People say Bosa, but Bosa barely got a hand on him. Let's be honest. It was Armstead who had the clean shot at him and had him dead to rights. But go ahead, Pete.
Did you go yesterday? Sorry to interrupt. Did you go to the game?
Yeah, I was there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd love to hear what some of the crowd was saying. But anyway, sorry, keep going. But
yeah, no, I mean, the crowd, we were, when it was 14-10, basically when he threw those back-to-back interceptions, we were just like, okay, that's it. It's over, because we weren't really able to stop them very well. And, the only times we stopped them were basically sacks. Those couple sacks that Armstead had. And I guess they had the one fumble where Irv Smith fumbled down to the goal line and we recovered it. Isaiah Oliver did some good things around the line of scrimmage. He had some nice plays on guys, keeping them from getting the edge and getting that fumble recovery. But boy, he was sure burnt toast. It just felt like every time there's a pass play, it's like, oh, look where Isaiah Oliver is. That's probably where the ball's going to go. And there were a couple exceptions to that, but some penalties on on Charvarius Ward and whatnot. But he did not do well in coverage. I
think Charvarius Ward's overhyped. I think And remember when they played, and they mentioned it in the broadcast yesterday as well, Jamar Chase cooks him each time, even when he played for the Chiefs. It was just a demolition, but yeah.
Yeah, and so Isaiah Oliver is part of the reason why I'm not screaming for Steve Wilkes to be fired. I feel like he made some adjustments in the second half that looked a little bit better. Like he said, he's still getting to know this defense. It's not a defense he's ever called before. I just don't know who you can get that's better at this point in the season. So for now, I'm still available. Yeah, for now, I'm just saying ride with Wilkes and see if he can figure it out. See if the defense can start playing a little bit better too. Bosa needs to show up. I guess, in the second half, they weren't even really double and triple teaming him like normal. And yet still he was not a factor. Randy Daytona said all but one pick came after the concussions. Well, no, not yesterday. Yesterday, both of the picks came before the concussion, and we're not sure that was a concussion at the end of the game. Then in fact, even the pick that he threw on that play came before his head hit the ground. The fumble came after the concussion, and that's it. Then the game was pretty much over after that point. I think the Bengals pretty much just knelt down. I'll tell you one thing, nitpicky thing for me, and I wasn't even there at the game. Honestly, we left when whatever the last turnover was. Not the one where we turned over the ball, but maybe we turned. I don't know. I forget what happened, but it was like 3 minutes to go. Oh, it was the last TD when the Bengals scored, when Nixon just walked in the left edge of the end zone and just pranced in and did his Ayuk dance. We got up and left, but it really bugged me towards the end of the game that the Bengals are calling all these timeouts as they're like kneeling out the ball. Like, why do you call 2 30-second timeouts? You're like, I felt bad for the people that were still there. Like, like all you want to do is just get the game over. So you can say, yes, I watched the whole game and get the heck out of there. And they're calling these 30-second timeouts. I didn't understand that. And it bothered me, but whatever. And not as much as these other things bother me by any stretch, but that was just a little nitpicky thing for me against the Bengals. But, the mood was not good at the stadium. The mood was not good with me and my friends because there's no clear answers. As far as we don't know that Brock's going to bounce back. We don't know that there's answers on defense. We don't even know anymore if we're still buyers. I asked it in a DM group that I'm in. Are we still buyers? I don't know. I mean, and here the Seahawks just went and got, Leonard, was it Leonard Williams they got from the Giants? Who's a very good defensive tackle. Obviously he's no Dexter Lawrence, who's their star defensive tackle, but very solid, very, very big pickup for the Seahawks. Maybe not quite as big as the Eagles getting Bayard, Kevin or Keith Bayard. But, I'd like to see us make a move or two. I'd like to see us get Jalen Johnson from the Bears and maybe Montez Sweat. Although, there's some people saying, what's the point of a pass rush, if everybody's just throwing in 2.5 seconds now. But I don't think everybody is throwing in 2.5 seconds. And if they are, then you need to adjust and play more press man and adjust to that. And the pass rush forces them to do it. Forces them, if they try to improvise or do anything, bam, I do think pass rush has been devalued. I've been saying it since 2020. When I noticed it was when Bosa was injured and Sherm was injured, but Verrett stepped up and was huge. Jimmy Ward was playing really well. And obviously, Fred and Dre were playing great and Aziz. But really the back seven of our defense was the strength of our 2020 defense. And they were, I think, top 5 statistically or close to it. They weren't, number 1 or anything like that without Bosa. But it was just like right from then on, I was just like, can we please invest a little bit more in our corners and our safeties? and not just dump everything into the D line that can be defeated by a great O line, that can be defeated by mobile quarterbacks, that can be defeated by a mediocre or bad O line that's just allowed to hold, like we saw in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So I think we're running into a situation where our whole build philosophy that, you know, Lynch brought to us from the 2002 Bucks might be a little outdated in 2023, you know?
So when Kyle, I don't know if anyone, and you could tell me, guys in the audience, if you saw the press conference of Kyle Shanahan, you know that he can't, when he gets beat like that, you know he's going to come to the stand. He's going to come to the podium very, very pissed off. He's going to come to the podium very honorary. And he was that yesterday. He was very arrogant. And I think Matt Mayoko asked the first question about that interception that he threw with Kittle. And I think one of the other receivers being so close together, he dismissed him like he was just an intern asking the question. But then the question was asked around the deadline, and he just said, "No, we're not." He deflected the question, and it didn't sound like they were biased. And if we don't get any depth in that, we need. I personally think we need another corner, and we need some, an offensive tackle. That would be that'll be 1-2 for me.
And since we're not going to get an offensive tackle because teams don't let them go,
no,
and we're probably going to want to save that first round draft pick for the 2024 draft to get one that would be inexpensive, because if you trade for one, then you're going to have a huge price tag associated with that right tackle. Why not get a tight end too, like Kittle, who can block and catch, since Dwelly can't block and
not a bad idea.
Catch. That might be the budget way to help our right tackle without breaking the bank, but also add some offensive firepower in 2 tight end sets. It might help our run game too, to be able to have that extra blocker, because McKivitz is no stud in the run game either. So that might be a cheaper way to do it, and with some different, wrinkles to it as well.
Who's out there?
Who's out there? Lyle Collins is out there. Oh, tight end twos, I don't know.
Yeah,
you would have to look at the bad teams. You would look at the Panthers. You would look at the Giants. You would look at maybe the Texans. I don't know. I'd have to take a look at the schedule or at the standings. Real quick, just want to call East Coast Red Gold Jess in the house. She said Niners did not peak too soon. We've been down this road before. Yeah, I mean, we've been down this road before. In 2021, we were 3-5 at this point in the season, and we ended up 10-7. The difference was, though, that we were kind of gaining momentum, not backsliding into 3-5. It's a little bit different, I think, but you never know. And then obviously last year in 2022. We were 4-4 at this point in the season after being 3-4. But the big difference there too is we had just got Christian McCaffrey, and then we went on this 12-0 run with CMC. So again, I don't know that it's apples to apples. And I think the defense was playing better both years. Well, maybe not in 2021, because we had like Josh Norman out there, who's probably as weak of a link as Isaiah Oliver, plus old and making mental mistakes too. I don't know.
But is it just from East Coast?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that was the thrust of the article I read in The Athletic. And I've got to agree in some respects, because they have been down this road. And I don't know if anyone watched, again, I am a big press conference watcher. Fred Warner spoke very well. Can't believe he went in the 4th round. He must have killed it in interviews. But anyway.
3rd.
He was he just talked a lot of sense, and people said, I think it wasn't Grant, but it was someone else, do you have faith in your quarterback? And he's like, what do you want me to say? No. Like, he was very pragmatic. He was very self-deprecating. And he said, that they think they've got the people in the organization to figure it out. I'm not saying that I'm not hanging my hat on that statement, But that is the one thing that has given me confidence in regard to this season, because they've done it before. I think that they have a better roster at this point in time compared to the last two seasons that this happened. I think you're right, Ted, in regard to what you're saying in terms of the defense not playing that well, or not as well, and the other two things that you mentioned in regard to the momentum, Christian McCaffrey, etc. But we seem to have worked it out in the past. The biggest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So that's something that I'm hanging on to as a fan. But there's a lot of comments in the I'm seeing that there's a lot of talk about the quarterback Purdy, like a lot of there you saw it's over, Ted.
That's a Rams fan though, so I'm not.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Who's
Jim
that?
Everett the Great. Yeah, and Alex Simpson was asking if I'm closer to the game than Stovall. So hell yeah, I was way closer. I was section 142, row 11. So I was 11 rows off the field. I was right by where there's a little area to the left of the bench where they like examine people before they pull them into the blue tent, which is also on the left side of the bench. And so I'm right by that little high timeout area there, you might call it. Or my buddy is, who takes me to a lot of these games, who has the season tickets. So way closer than Steve Wilkes, who's way up in the booth. So he's farther back and way further up. So yeah, way closer.
Hey Jim, if you're a Rams fan, what are you doing in here, brother?
Oh, they have no good content creators. It's not his fault.
Okay,
they come to harass us. I mean, didn't the Rams lose to the Steelers anyway, though? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Oh, wait. Steelers
played. That was last week. Because I was talking about it. I was at the Stanford tailgate on Saturday with my son, and I was talking to a Steelers fan who I'd talked to before week one. He's like, oh, you were worried about maybe losing to us week one. That didn't happen. He's like, tell me honestly, what do you think about the Steelers? And I said, honestly, your guys' offense is anemic. I don't think you guys are a playoff team. You're 4-2. I don't think it's going to last. And sure enough, they went ahead and lost to whoever they played. I forget who they played over the weekend, but
the Cowboys 43. It's the biggest score they've allowed.
No, that was the Rams. The Rams lost to the Cowboys. The Steelers.
Yeah. Oh, the Steelers, right? Sorry.
That's okay. It's all right. We're talking lots of different stuff here, so it gets confusing. So don't worry. Steelers.
Oh, Jimmy Everett said something at 9:28 that is a little bit scary.
What did he say?
I don't want to. I'm not going to say even the word.
Okay.
It's a court case that's coming up with one of our content creators, one of our apparent content creators.
Really?
Jack the Hammer.
Oh gosh! All right. A court case. Why would it? Is there something new with them? Something?
No. Sorry, maybe I'll probably misspoken. I think.
Oh, I see. Here you go. You have the Jack Hammer curse 0-3. Yeah, could be since the news broke about his demise. But I'm not going to talk too much about that just because it's negative and whatever else. But there's lots of people could get blamed for this. People are trying to blame me for jumping on the Purdy bandwagon after the Cowboys game and saying that I apologize unequivocally after that, because I had obviously the qualifiers after week 4 of no contenders and maybe only playoff pretenders like the Rams and Steelers, I think, are probably both playoff pretenders. But let's work our way up from the bottom here. If Jim was funny, they wouldn't block him. He's just boring. Yeah. Let's see here. I keep hitting the same one as it pops up. He got away with being he didn't get away with anything. He was convicted or pled or whatever he did, but he served time. He had a punishment, so I don't know about that. Banks is now officially questionable for Sunday.
Banks is out. He's good. He's a turf toe, apparently.
Oh wow! So for Sunday, it's weird that they would even list him as questionable a week and a half in advance. It's almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday. But that would be a huge loss. One of our better O linemen. Mark Graves in the house said Rams were embarrassed by Cowboys yesterday. Yep, indeed. If you knew me, you know how dumb that is. I don't care if they win. Got what in the house? The poo emoji laughing. All right. Saying Ramelia Sports is the GOAT. Another Rams fan. Ramelia is pretty cool for sure. Let's see here.
There's one from Mark Graves that I like. If you go up to Mark Graves at 926, look at Raiders for a tight end.
Yeah, all right. We were talking about tight ends. I was looking at the standings and I had some ideas there. New England, they have who do they have? They have a good tight end, Hunter Henry, who's really good tight end, touchdown catching tight end. I think he's a decent blocker. I don't think he's a great blocker, but that would be an option. Denver, I'm not sure they're selling at 3 and 5. And I'm not sure they have a great tight end. Cincy, we know they're not selling. The Colts, I don't think they have anybody who's amazing. Raiders have Austin Hooper, who was a good tight end back in the day. I don't know how good he is anymore. It seems like they're missing Darren Waller.
But I mean, he's not going to go anywhere. He's at
the Giants. Well, maybe if they sold. The thing about Darren Waller is he doesn't block, and so that kind of defeats the whole purpose of what I was talking about.
Yeah, true. Okay.
He still would be a great. He's 6'5" and runs a 4.4. He's a great big slot. No problem there. I mean, he's not Kelsey, obviously, but in that mold of not so much blocking, a lot more route running. But he does also get injured quite a bit. Arizona has Max Williams. I always liked him. I'm not sure what he's been like back from his ACL when Mosley hit him in our game and sent him out. But he's been back for a year and a half, so I would assume he's starting to get better from that. The Bears, I don't know if they have any great tight ends.
No.
I don't think so. Carolina.
Oh yeah, they've got Gertz. Is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, the Bears.
They've got they have one of the big guys.
He's good. He's a good tight end. Let me check.
Got Frank Tom Ocean in the house. If you watch Warner House, Fred's podcast, they love Purdy. They're tired of all the negative talk about him.
I like that. His wife is very attractive.
I'm tired of the talk, but I mean, I don't know. Look for Raiders for TE. Mayer seems to be their guy. You get their other Hooper. Yeah, he's a good tight end. I mean, he's better than Dwally or Warner, at least for pass catching.
Yeah.
Says Rams are in the chat. We got fish oil in the house. Brocktober stunk it up. Brocktober did not have a good October. That is true. That is true.
Some of he wasn't. I don't think he was disastrous yesterday. Like, he did throw some picks, but some of his passes yesterday were spot on. When he had some time, he hardly had any time yesterday, and when he's allowed time. And had and there was I saw a comment in there saying he's the definition of a system QB. It's starting to look a little bit like that, but we have to not be clouded by the negativity and look at his game from some of his, like that pass to Kittle was brilliant. It was so good. It was.
Were you talking about right before the end of the half, where it's like kneel down? Like,
well, no, there was that one, but there was another one in the second half. He dropped it. He just dropped it beautifully over the linebacker's head. But can we just let's get into what Kyle's doing with this team? And when I say, I'm not saying that fire Kyle or anything like that, but out and. Again, sorry to keep chatting about the press conference, but if you heard Kittle, he was very, 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 very vociferous, to use a fancy word, about going back to the Niners, my YouTube channel, Niners DNA, which is the outside zone, set up the run, get the passes happening. He's turned. You know, I don't necessarily disagree, Bill. We've gone away from a game plan that worked for a very long time, that is in our DNA, and to a pass first offense, which we're not. We are not. We have CMC, the best running back in the league. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that in the chat? Can we talk about that, Ted? What do you think
about CMC? Like, I mean,
no,
I thought we
should. What we're not. Kyle is not calling the game. Like, we're not running the outside.
There's no innovation, right? It's just run CMC, throw to CMC. Yeah, there's nothing super innovative. The genius part seems to be missing.
But I just don't think we're sticking to what we are as a football team by establishing the run, go to play action, outside zone. We're not doing any of that. We seem to be running up the middle between tackles. And that number two, I don't think that's why he's heavily marked. I know he's heavily guarded, CMC, but his yards per carry is in the the high twos and low threes. And we start to make yardage when we go back to the outside zone. And I just don't think Kyle is caught. There's no sort of, you're right, there's no innovation in the way that he's setting these play calls up for a big chunk play. So I
think the outside zone is just, you don't have McGlinchey on the right tackle anymore, who is a great outside zone blocker. And then obviously no Trent Williams yesterday. So then you go to your strengths, which is going to be Banks, Brendel, and maybe even Burford is maybe a run blocking strength over McKivitz. And so maybe it's just a temporary thing. But maybe getting a tight end who could block better and getting Trent Williams back could help, I think.
And I think, can we just go back to James's comment? What did he say about, and that's true. I don't know why he's up there. Like, just get down there. Calling base D, like, you said a comment before, Ted, about, playing some press man. I think that's what we've got to start thinking about. This zone, it's almost like off this zone, soft zone coverage. It's just not suiting what we've got.
I kept saying that during the game. Steve just looks soft. It's just soft. There's no tackling. There's no coverage. There's no enforcement. Dre Greenlaw got trucked. Everything went wrong yesterday. And Dre definitely a few times looked like he was kind of hobbling around, not like he hurt his hand. And he played through it, so he never came off the field. But probably not 100%, I would say. So we'll see if anything shows up on that. So people are saying that Purdy didn't have any concussion. I don't know. I think he did, but it is odd that he was cleared in 5 days.
Yeah, it's like they're not going to. What do you think, they're going to make it up? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm an Australian that doesn't. I'm not over there, so.
No doubt about it. Real quick, I should probably just pay the bills real quick and just say that we're brought to you by TTG, the Travelstead Group. They do retail and hospitality logistics. So that is brick and mortar and transportation and warehousing for brick and mortar, fixed furniture and equipment, which is FFE, operating supplies and equipment, which is OSE, new store openings, rollouts, relocations, decommissions, from the first mile to the final mile and everywhere in between. Travelstead has you covered. Let us know how we can help you via air, ocean, or land. Closed loop solutions for retail and hospitality. It's Nick and Henry over there are the folks I work with. Great guys. They also have 100% US-based support. So, when logistic issues pop up, little snafus, fine-tuning, that when you pick up the phone and call, it's people here in the US that understand your problems, and not somebody overseas on some call center where you have no idea where they are and they have no idea what you do. So make sure you tell them Ted sent you. The website is in the description for the show. It's in my YouTube About page, my Twitter bio, also in Instagram and Facebook if you follow me there. Click on it, check out the video, and it's good stuff. Appreciate your guys' help on that. And Pedro, I appreciate you letting me pay the bills.
Anytime, brother. Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet is the Bears tight end.
And I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a blocker or not. I don't know enough about him, but
he's big. I mean, I know that. So
big boy. Yeah, he's 1.98 meters.
We got Show in the house. Was that about 6'6"?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's tall, 6'7", maybe even. I got Onshol from the Show in the house. He's saying, hey, Ted and Pete, make sure you check out his channel. Good stuff there. Randy was saying, I agree. Start Sam, take the L, give everyone 3 weeks to rest. Yeah, that's what I thought was the prudent move yesterday. Even though I was going to the game, I wrote that in my article, like, hey, I'm going to be there. I'd much rather watch Purdy than Sam Darnold as a fan. But, like, you know, I'm always about rather lose the battle to win the war. And it just seemed like there were 3 big reasons. The concussion was a big reason. The extra 2 weeks for his concussion to heal up better. Not that it heals, but just to have less lingering effects. You can still pass the protocol and still not be 100%, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, his arm, because he had admitted to Troy after the Vikings game that his arm wasn't 100%. So that's, you know, it's much harder to rehab your arm after a game than after a week of rest. You can do much more strengthening when you're not playing and then icing, and, you know, it gets in the way of strengthening. And then the other big reason you already mentioned, Pedro, which was no Trent Williams. I didn't know that Trent Williams wouldn't play when I wrote the article, but I said if Trent Williams doesn't play, that's a darn good reason also to not play Purdy, because he won't be protected as well back there. And sure enough, he got hit in the head, or his head hit the ground. Close enough.
At least 5 times he took heavy fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Donald Johnson says Wilkes needs to be fired. What do you think?
There's no one to replace him. I think we just got to. There's got to be some soul searching, you know. And I saw I don't know if you saw Ryan Hensley's show with Steph Sanchez, but they were talking about from an inside source that Lynch and the D are not happy with Wilkes.
I feel like he's being scapegoated. You know, Kyle always has his people that he blames. And I'm not saying he's done a great job, obviously. I think this whole practically prevent defense style of defense, it's not a winning style of football.
No.
But does he deserve to be fired? I don't think so. I mean, at least
I don't think so just yet.
At least not while Isaiah Oliver is just getting cooked every time the ball comes his way. You can't blame him for that. And also, you know, people taking bad angles. Eric Armstead not sacking. I mean, he did have 2 sacks afterwards, but that first one he missed early in the game.
Oh my God!
Was a big momentum play for sure.
It's like Burrow had spiders on him. They couldn't pull him down.
Yeah, no, Burrow he seemed like Superman when he was running the ball. He was untouchable, incredible. And that was part of the reason why I picked the Bengals game. It's like, hey, I wanted to go see. He's an elite quarterback, and I wanted to see an elite quarterback. And you know, after the game last night, I tweeted out, I said, Joe Burrow is the real deal, right? If you want a real deal quarterback, that's what it looks like. And that's why I would never have called Purdy the real deal. Even after the Cowboys game, when he was playing great, I was like, he's not elite, folks. I had him at 6-9, which is still way too high, but not in that top 5, and certainly not top 3 like Burrow. And now people can see why. You know, these guys, they'll have bad games here and there, but the overall body of work, you know, proves it out.
I saw a snippet of what's the guy, Larry Krueger, saying that, you know, the 49ers content creator ecosystem is like, you know, high school or something, you know, that everyone's trying to pull Brock Purdy down, and he, you know, just believe he's the real deal, like he said, like I do, and like Kyle Shanahan does. And I'm not, I don't know Larry. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but
he's a bad guy.
Okay.
I'm saying it. Well, he came out and said, Ted's say these words. I was wrong. Eventually I did. But it wasn't until 2 games later. That was before the Cards game. He was saying, Ted, say I was wrong. And I was like, no, I won't say it till we win a Super Bowl. I should have stuck to my guns. But, ultimately. I said on
Twitter, you were bullied into saying that he was good. And now I think, it's come to fruition that I think the other,
I was never bullied into saying that Trey wasn't still TBD because I stuck to that one.
Right.
And I still think, like, if we had sat Brock Purdy on Sunday, I would have rather had Trey Lance going in there for him than Sam Darnold. That's for damn sure. But and like I said, once you pick one, you got to get rid of the other. I just thought it was too early to pick Brock Purdy. Guess what? Looks like it was too early to pick Brock Purdy. I mean, shit, he might get benched after all this. We might end up with Sam Darnold in Jacksonville. Who knows? I don't know. So Ian's saying that Darnold was signed for these situations. He should have played. Wilkes hasn't improved the secondary at all. Fair. That's fine. These guys are having their own little arguments here. Trying to stay out of most of it, but most coordinators stay in booth. I don't know. I mean, Saleh and D'Amico Ryans didn't, and they did good things. So it's interesting.
That's what James was saying. They were on the field, hyping the guys up, and that's what I think a gentleman has said up the top there. Albert Soto, he just needs to get out. If you go to that one.
I didn't see Alberto was here. So is that further? Is it down below?
946.
Also, real quick. All right, real quick. Just want to say hi to Bryant Culp in the house. Everybody, make sure you check out his YouTube channel, and his wife Tony does the Women of the Niners Roundtable Saturdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So I'm coming up from the bottom. There we go, Alberto Soto.
Yeah.
So he just needs to get out of the box and go down the field for better communication and show some discipline when the players are messing up. Yeah. I suppose it's just funny. Nobody was complaining about him being in the booth for the first 5 games when things were going well, but things take a turn, and I don't know.
I'd rather him on the field, and I thought it was weird that he was in the booth. I think what Albert has said is bang on. When the further away you are from the boss, it's like the factory floor, right?
Yeah.
He's up in his office. You can hide in corners. I'm not, obviously I'm being a little bit facetious here, but think about it. When D'Amico was on the sideline and Robert Saleh was on the sideline, they didn't take it. They were like, they'll get in the face of the person who's doing some stuff. So, some messing up. So, yeah, I've got to agree. Jimmy Ward's defense is missed. Bang.
I said it all off season. Yeah. So many people told me, oh, Gibson replaced him. We won't miss him. He's fine. It's fine. I was like, no, Jimmy Ward is an enforcer and a great tackler, a great cover guy. He actually even had 3 interceptions in the second half of last season. 2 of them on Eric Armstead pressures. Armstead had no sacks last season, but those 2 pressures for interceptions are worth a whole bunch of sacks in my mind. Jimmy Ward is definitely being missed. If the Texans would trade him, boy, I would trade to get Jimmy Ward back in a minute. Even with that big price tag. If you want to go all in, you got to go all in. You can't just, half measures are not going to get it done. You gotta shove all your chips in. Burrow's a stud with the wide receiver playing like the Bad News Bears. Yeah, Randy brought up earlier that he's the highest paid player in the NFL. That's true. And that's why I wanted to go see him. I wanted to go see what a great quarterback is like live. It's been a long time since I've seen a great quarterback live. That's, I don't know. I don't really count Kaepernick. So, Kyle's already said he's sitting in on every defensive meeting. Okay. Well, that's good.
That's going to be a little bit emasculating for our boy Wilkes. He's got daddy in the room.
Said he did hear that too. Kyle said we'll have a conversation with Wilkes about possibly having him coach down on the field. Okay. There you go. So
There's
sounds like
something that Randy has said. Look at the passing yards and first downs and rushing yards. Randy, what are you referring to? The Bengals or the 49ers? I just tried to have a look at the box score.
Is that down at the bottom?
Yeah, Randy at 950.
There we go.
What are you referring to, Randy?
I think he means the Bengals because
because
they ran a lot.
Perfect.
Mixon ran a lot. Burrow ran a lot.
Yeah.
28 for 32. Yeah, I mean, he was almost perfect. It was almost like there was no defense out on the field at all. I mean, not quite that bad, but it was pitch and catch for sure. 17 picks going to the fourth until Purdy get again with it. Yeah. No, I mean, and now we've got 3 games in a row of only scoring 17 points. What happened to Purdy for 30? All of a sudden now he's Purdy for 13.
What about Burrow, 28 from 32?
Yeah. Incredible.
That is elite.
Yeah.
Look at the rushing yards. 134 rushing yards yesterday.
Yeah, they tore us up.
Yeah. Jamar Chase, 100 yards.
Got Jason Niner Smash Massey in the house, Niners Faithful Radio. What's up, Jason? Make sure you check out his channel. Bryant thinks the bye will be able to help fix things. I mean, for sure getting Deebo and Trent back will help. I would hope we could get, I mentioned earlier in the show, Samuel Womack back. He's been out so long, though. I don't know how long it would take him to get back into game shape, but I just can't imagine how he could be any worse in coverage than Isaiah Oliver. I mean, Isaiah Oliver is a stud at the line of scrimmage. I will give him that.
Yeah, he is.
He has explosion and making plays, but when it comes to like change of direction or keeping up with fast receivers, after a step or two, they're just gone, and he's never recovering. It's not going to happen. Jason says, I don't think Wilkes on the sideline helps. Actually, he isn't rah-rah type like Ryans or Solo were. There's that. That's an argument in that respect.
It is. So he went on into reserve with a knee injury, being out 6 to 8 weeks. So he went on. That's the 16th of September. So 6 weeks. It's almost up.
So that'd be an MCL, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Grade 2, I believe.
Short-term IR. So maybe he's back after the bye.
Great one says he's not even Purdy for 20. He's not. All the cliches. Burrow did exactly what Cousins did. No, yeah. Burrow did more than what Cousins did. Burrow threw TDs.
Yeah, but what I think
Burrow did what Cousins might have done if Cousins had Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
because Burrow had Jamar Chase and he had T. Higgins and he had Tyler Boyd, whereas Cousins had Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne, and then eventually when Addison got injured, he was doing it with Brandon frickin' Powell, the kick returner from the Rams. He was lighting us up. It's crazy.
I think, just to go back to Ian's comment, I think what he might be referring to is, remember how last year, or maybe it was 2021, we seem to be playing these teams into form. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember that? We'd sort of play quarterbacks into form. It felt like that yesterday. Well, it felt like that with Kirk, and it felt like that with Burrow yesterday. But I think the Bengals game was always going to be a slip. And they just proved again, because look what they did in the past. They were always three. They came into past 2 years. They came into week 7 or week 8. Sorry, 3 for 3. So
amazing. Alberto says we're killing
yeah,
ourselves.
one penalty all game.
Yeah,
that's disciplined football.
And some of them were kind of questionable. I mean, we were definitely in the stands saying, I mean, it's crazy that the Bengals only had one penalty, and it wasn't till like almost a 2-minute warning. That's not right. I mean, that's not realistic that they didn't commit any penalties during that game. So They were 2 minutes away from having their first ever penalty-free game. The Bengals were. It's crazy. Instead of skipping a COVID year, Trey should have transferred and play. Yeah, I guess. But also, we should have given Trey more of a chance. No, Trey didn't blow it. The Niners blew it. We didn't even let him play with CMC. So I refused. We blew it by trading away for peanuts, and especially before Brock was proven to be the guy. That's the problem.
Real deal.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus. Yeah, Trey got injured, and Kyle moved on and never really gave him a fair shake in this last offseason. He was our best quarterback in camp, and he lit it up against the Broncos after a little bit of a slow start. He did some things in that game where, Croc said it. If he could play that way consistently, there's no one on this roster that could touch Trey Lance, and the consistency is likely to come with reps. So I know we don't have a ton of time left. Did we want to go into the Jags, or I guess we can do that next week, right? I guess we don't.
Yeah,
Jags
we have some time because I've got a hard stop at 10.
Yeah, no, I know. So that's why I was just making sure. Yeah, I was just making sure that we didn't leave anything on the table for this week.
Have we got anything? I think I love Randy's comment. That's why baseball has a minor league. I wish the NFL had a minor league.
Yeah, the trick is you got to have it where they own the rights. So when they come back up, they come back up to your team. Whereas if they go to the XFL or CFL or USFL, when they come back up, it's free for all. Sort of like what happened with Calvin Ridley. I mean, what a boon for the Jags that they got Calvin Ridley just off the street. That's incredible to go with Christian Kirk. And we'll wait to talk about them until next week.
Yeah.
Trey quit, requested a trade. No, that was after Kyle handed Sam Darnold the QB2 job, Randy. I mean, he handed Brock the QB1 job. There was no competition for QB1. There probably should have been. There was none for QB2. They pretended that there was, but then you don't end it before the third game and name him. So, Trey realized he had no shot here, that Kyle was never going to give him a fair chance. He said, I'd rather be QB3 anywhere else than QB3 on the 49ers because of Kyle treated him. It's Kyle's fault, Randy. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to hard disagree with that. He requested a trade because of the way Kyle treated him. So let's get that straight. VTU 2022 says that's what I was saying. Trey never had a chance. Fire Kyle. I'm not fire Kyle yet, but I definitely, the seat's warming up for sure.
I just love Rob D. Rob D at the end now. Shouldn't be talking about Trey.
Well, Lance is watching because he missed all of OTAs and in camp and most of preseason with the Cowboys. So he's got to go through a full offseason with them before he's going to have a fair chance to see what he can really be, if he can be their actual backup or whatnot. But I know you got to go real quick. Dave McNiner in the house. Make sure you check out his channel. Thanks for stopping by. Rob D in the house. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry that we're leaving, but we got to go. I'll just say peace and go Niners. Thanks everybody.
Guys. Let's get it back on track.